Excellent.
Desmond, thank you so much. I feel truly honoured with that performance.
It's a pleasure. Oh my God, it was like you know, it's funny because it depends. It depends how the type of person and people that are in the audience, because that a great energy, and like it actually helped me. My performance.
Good.
Oh yeah, for sure. I draw on the energy of the
audience. I was engrossed. It felt very cinematic. Yeah. It felt very much like I was. I was there in the front row, the only audience member, which is something that's like, this is a unique experience we're getting at the Fringe here, to have moments like that. So it felt very intimate, but at the same time, the way that you did the lighting in your performance felt cinematic. There was atmosphere in there, but yet you came out as well. You broke that fourth wall a number of times. So how did that, just that experience alone, how did that feel for you, having one audience member? And
it felt all right. I mean, like I feel so comfortable with this piece. I mean, obviously having at least one person is definitely. I mean, I would do it, empty, but I have that the energy to feed off of, because I mean, as I say in the play, I mean, without a witness, we're caught in a daft bag of mixed up thoughts. So you have to have a witness, and you were the witness. But getting back to what you were saying about the cinematic, like I think having like a screenwriting and filmic background is kind of it laid
fed into that,
the backdrop for that, and I think it just wanted to, I wanted to feel like there was this all immersive world, and even playing multiple characters. Like I thought about, there were several times I thought, I could have audio cues and have voiceovers but I thought, you know what, I'd rather do it myself and just be these people and play off these people, not just for the sheer challenge of it, but because I feel like I'll be in the story more,
Yes, no, definitely. And I saw as well, like, I wonder if I saw a performance there that was very reminiscent of a famous actor, and I wonder if I can mention that to you at this point, like halfway through the run.
Sure.
Like I very much felt Brad Pitt was in there a little bit. Yeah,
Interesting.
He's like quirkiness, his energy from Snatch, from 12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys, definitely. There was very much that. It was there.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think I have a lot of that energy. Well, naturally, I've got quite a bit of that energy. Very, it could be frenetic, but it could be, in fact, a lot of the working through this piece has given me pause to take certain moments, especially with some of the dialogue, really the more difficult dialogue-heavy scenes. I mean, it's all dialogue-heavy, but certain like pronunciations and alliterations, I've forced myself to slow down, because in the very first couple performances, I felt like I was like just racing through it. So that's been really nice, and obviously getting more comfortable with the text has enabled that for me. But definitely taking moments to slow down and to find those moments, it makes the dialogue and the words feel so much more pleasurable.
And I definitely felt that about. I know it must have been. I can only imagine it must have been quite hard in some ways to have only one audience member, because you do feed off that energy.
Of course.
But I definitely felt like you relaxed into it about 20 minutes in. Like I definitely felt you started to go with the flow of it. Whereas at the beginning, the energy was very fast paced. And I don't like to give criticism, but as a performer as well,
of course.
I think that's part of this, just open dialogue. That you can afford to even slow it down a little bit, a little bit more earlier on. Because towards the end, it just felt natural. And it could have just done with that tweak at the beginning to just be that. It's okay. We're here. It's fine.
Exactly. Well, I mean, definitely the beginning, having that, and also especially that it was one person. I kind of there's sort of a trust. You want to give the audience, like, it is breaking the fourth wall, but you want to also respect the space too. So it's like it's kind of like going back and forth with letting the audience participate as an observer, but then also taking those moments where you're in with them. So it's just finding the rhythm, and that's kind of
and I really felt that we got there. A particular moment that felt really nice for me as well was when you came and sat down next to me.
Oh,
and
yeah,
we talked about the theatre space,
theatre space,
being this womb.
Yeah, the womb.
And in a weird way, it made me feel very much like when I was back at school playing with my friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
it took me back there.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I'm part of this.
Yeah.
Like, here we are, like, okay, I may be the audience member sitting back and you're the one playing, but
Sure.
I felt like there was this thing going on with the both of us.
Like it's an invitation, like
Yes,
we're in this together, you know? And I want to do that. I mean, you know, just to be able to, you know, maintain that imaginative sense where, like, you know, we can make anything happen here. While it is still a story, there is that understanding that, like, even though the character also is doing his best to find his piece as well. So kind of is like it fits like a couple bills at the same time.
Yeah. So how are you finding the Fringe itself? Like, are you settling into the rhythm of this? Because it's still, I guess this is still quite early, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's
halfway.
interesting. I look at the calendar. It feels it's been like a time warp because from day to day it feels like stretches of 3 days. It's so bizarre because, you know, you're separated. It's almost like the performance is almost like your alarm clock. It's sort of the break in between each day that sort of gives you that signpost. Oh yeah, another day's passed. But it's been really good. I feel like I put a lot of time into creating a more outreach with press. I've done so much emailing, marketing. I've gone to almost every event that I feel like was relevant for me. I've also gone to see other performances shows because I feel like so much of the Fringe is supporting your fellow artists and you know, your fellow theater maker, and that for me has been really rewarding because it's something that I feel like this is we're all in this together. So that's been.
And you talked about a tribe. You talked about the audience being your tribe. And I think that's what this place is. I think everyone that's here is the tribe.
It's a tribe.
So if you're a tribe, you don't just ask them to come to you. You go to them. You go to them as well. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah, because we all need that support. And I found that, like, you know, having the artist support is great because they know they're doing the same thing. So they know. But it's been good. I've been pacing myself pretty well. I feel good. I'm glad that, like, I looked at the schedule. I'm like, oh yeah, it's 22 more days. Like I'm just in the first trimester of this, which is great. That's fine because I feel like I've gotten this thing on its feet now, like where I want it. And this has been a bit of a testing ground in the very beginning. Obviously, I had a review of the first day of a preview, which was not the best performance, but you know, hey, listen, no excuses. You know, you got to always be prepared. But I've had some good audience response. In fact, I had a couple people from the States. I had 16 and 17-year-olds come to my second performance from Alaska, and they got it. So I feel like I've done Gen Z, I've got millennials. So I'm crossing barriers, which is good. And that's really what I wanted.
And I wonder if an American audience might get it a little bit more because there's that social contract thing that you have in America that isn't quite as tight as it is here to over there. So, I'm always looking at an outsider, and we do have a little bit of the social contract, but not to the extent in which you do America that people seem to live by. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, there is that. I think, I mean, it's funny because having been in Scotland for a few months earlier when I came out here in May, like, they're very open-minded to listening, to hearing you out first, and like my experience at least with, you know, if you're discussing politics. And I think to answer your question about the American, I think, yes, that is to a great extent true. At the same time, I feel like they can also be very sort of stolid with their opinions on things too. So you're going to get tested also. So that's the thing. The other night, in fact, it's funny. The other night I looked at one of the ballots. I got a guilty ballot, and I was like, ooh, because I've been getting all innocent, not guilty.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah. So but it's funny because I felt from the audience that kind of like there was a little bit of resistance too, which is cool because again, this is not me spinning some convincing tale where I'm telling you what to think. You know, I'm just portraying a story.
I think as well, like, you are asking that question, guilty or not guilty. You give that to the audience at the very beginning. As you walk through the door, you're given a ballot paper and a pen, so you know you're going to have to make a decision. But I think you were asking questions that are deeper than that.
You're right. You are right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is more of something that I feel like is just just from a human level, like a humanity. And I just feel like there's been a lot of events, a lot of things that have really, I wouldn't say slipped under the radar, but I think we become more and more desensitized to a lot of injustices, and then you don't realize the cumulative damage and blowback of that is all of this pain, this frustration, anger, and sense of judgment to other people, and misplaced judgment. And I think that's why I think judgment is such a heavy theme in this play for me.
Do you have any hopes with people that have watched this play with a message that they'd leave with?
Yeah, I do, and I think it comes toward the latter part of the piece where I just want to have people be, myself included, because the same advice I give anyone, I have to encompass and embody myself, is to think sort of more carefully or think more thoroughly through why you feel a certain way towards something, and if it's not just something that's an emotional snap, judgment, like a quick-healed reaction, or if it's something deeper or something from another party that's in pain that maybe is not being served or understood or healed, because that can happen as well. And I feel like that is something, is just to have more insight and more internal awareness of why it is you feel a certain way towards someone, and if you do feel that way towards someone or a group of people, what is motivating that, and is it something that you feel could be assuaged or benefited by going deeper and maybe doing some own self-healing.
That's quite powerful.
Yeah,
powerful stuff,
I mean, that's
Desmond.
sort of...
And I guess that's the beauty of theatre, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess that we're trying to do something more than just entertain, aren't we?
Yeah,
yeah,
of course. But I think that's what makes it really exhilarating. I mean, when you can get behind the work, and I think, like I spoke to you last time, like doing this piece for me has been so pleasurable, because I feel like I've gotten to say a lot of the things I wanted to say and express and feel out emotionally, viscerally, physically, because it's not just speaking words, it is emoting with your body and your soul to be able to say what has been bottled up for so many years in such a way that, like, wow, finally. And having you in the audience tonight, there were moments in there where I was like, I felt it. I was like, wow, like this is what I lived for, and it's like I was aware. It's interesting, because even when you're aware of a moment that, oh wow, this is a performance, within that awareness it was like, yes, but this is real. This is just as real as us right now having this conversation.
Yeah.
We're still communicating.
Yeah. Oh, so what does that feel like to you then? What did that moment feel like?
It felt powerful. It felt, wow, I have this power to say something that is elevated and more important than maybe just a casual conversation with a loud crowd holding a coffee or a tea, because like even right now that we have these cameras rolling, it elevates it. It's something happens when you're putting something into the books, when you're putting something into the archives, if you will, it's your memory, and it's something that it's just an extra little stamp that, like, okay, this has to count. You have to.
Something happens in the storytelling, I think.
Yes.
Isn't it? Something extra.
A little extra.
A little extra, rather,
point.
because I don't think as well we don't really want to be taught any lessons. We don't want to be told how to think. But through the story, we might be able to find something new. Like you said at the beginning of this conversation, there's a lot of Americans that are hard line on their way of thinking.
Sure.
Well, through a story, it might give them that opportunity to have another perspective.
Exactly, and I think the way, and hopefully I've weaved this script, is I've done my best to give everyone, or at least a lot of people, I don't know if I speak for everyone, but a lot of people an opportunity to be like, yeah, I identify with that, or I can sit on that side, or I can see that. So it's like I've done my best to find those linchpins, if you will, where someone can find access within the script. And it's interesting. You're right. The last thing I wanted to do was be preachy or pontificate, and even one of the first lines is, when you see Hitchens as a teenager, he says, never liked being told how I should conduct myself. He goes, do any of us, done for your own good. So yeah, I mean, he had to live a life, a very early life where he was, pretty much told how to think, how to be, how to operate, what to do. So I think that's where he comes into this liberation where he finds himself whether for better or for worse. And I think that's what, with the same respect, I want to give to the audience in this portrayal.
And I think you've done that as well. I really did enjoy it as a piece of entertainment, but I also, it made me think. It made me think on a deeper level, and it made me really consider: what is happening to this guy? Is it the circumstances and choices that he made, or is it society that is the problem here?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like a nature nurture thing. But I think at a certain point, you have to take accountability, and hopefully that is reflected at the end within the piece. Without giving too much away, because I think you have to. In the very beginning, and hopefully I dovetail it, he says agency. That's what they taught us, agency. And agency, obviously, there's a play on the words, you could a federal agency or agency to have the will to make your decisions. You own them. You have the sovereign right to make a decision, which is not to be forgotten. I mean, whether or not there's corruption, whether or not there's pushback, we still have to always fight for or believe that we have some agency of decision making. I think that's another key theme I hope to put across, and did in this play.
No, definitely. And so, what's your judgment then? Where do you lie?
Well, I think that as a character, just as an outsider, I think as I like to think that I feel like we can only control so much. I think I've learned that even sort of in a microcosm within this festival, you have to do your best to make, I think, make the best efforts to make your speech clear, to make your decisions, your choices. If it's your values, if it's your your belief systems, sure. But I think within that, there's sort of there's a fine line between being able to be outspoken, but also being respectful of your fellow human. Fellow human. So I think that's it, and I try to toggle, and sometimes it's interesting because I mean I've just recently I've actually had a friendship that got cut, and because I was questioning my friend, and not in a challenging way that was in an interrogative way, interrogative, but in a way that I felt like I just wanted to hear the full story, and because of that, severed a friendship, and it was like, so it's like, I guess you have to expect that people right now are, there's a lot of tension, and there's a lot of frustration and a lot of fear, and I think because of that, it's very easy for some people to feel like, oh, I'm not understood, or you don't get me, or you're on the other side, and I'm on this side. And I think, this is where it gets very muddled and very contentious. So that's something I think for me was very disheartening, but at the same time I had to realize, what? That's not my story. I know that I've done my best to at least have a dialogue. And I think that's the most important thing, is that we have to be able to come to the table, like we're doing right now, and have a dialogue. Because if we can't get past that point, we're not going to get past the other.
What's the next thing that's
going
to
stop
us?
Yeah. So that's basically, I think, what hopefully this is, going to do also, is to open up a dialogue, and I feel like it already has for me.
Yeah. Well, this is what we're doing here, isn't it?
Exactly.
So it's working.
Exactly.
It's working, Desmond. And I really do appreciate you inviting me along to the show today.
I appreciate having me.
Performing for me. It was a really unique experience, and I think that's a beautiful thing that we can have here at the Fringe.
Excellent.
So just as we come to the end of this conversation, one last question for you. What advice would you give to anyone else that felt like they had a message that they wanted to share, that they wanted to put this into a story? Where do they begin? What should they do? I think you have to flesh it out and figure out, some of this stuff, because I think I do have quite a significant film background. I've just read and imbibed so much language about just getting to the core theme, central conflict, figuring out what it is within you that is really sort of gnawing at you. And I think to create a good story and a good conflict is not necessarily just about finding the components that what you put your character through, but more so, I think you have to sort of go internal and figure out what is
what is it within you that is worth, sacrificing what is most dear to you to say what is most important for you to have known. And I think, if you put those two things together, I think you'll be pretty well off. But as far as the process, I would say, if you're a writer, definitely just find a scene, find something that, I realized one thing about this story is it was easier for me to write than anything I've ever written, and I think because I've always wanted to speak up on this, and I think it's important that it has to feel like really like it has to feel like vital.
With you.
Yeah, because if it's not feeling vital, then don't spend 6 to 8 months or 2 or 3 years or 5 to 10.
Because it's going to take up a portion of your life.
A portion of your life, yeah. So I think that's the first thing I would say. And lastly, realize that also, this is another thing I want to say, is that while you're writing this, maybe the reason that you're working on this project is not necessarily because it's something you want to say or express, because maybe it's something that an answer that you don't know you're looking for. Maybe it's something that there's a question in there that you haven't asked yourself. Because a lot of times when you work on things, you're actually answering a lot of questions that are probably already known outside of yourself that you have to, work through to become known.
I'm taking that as a note for myself for some of the things that I'm working on. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. I think, you're right. I think I am searching for something.
Exactly.
And maybe I don't quite know what that is, because, I'm working on a piece at the moment, and I'm like, that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking for an answer.
An answer. Because it's good, because if you have so much to say about any one thing, chances are there's something that is not quite completely resolved. Because a lot of times in life, the things that are mostly resolved that really don't, tap our shoulder, we don't really pay much attention to doing.
No. Well, thank you so much, Desmond. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much,
sharing. And if anyone has been watching or listening, we appreciate you for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Started getting a bit noisy towards the end there.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can edit that quite well.
Yeah. Be good.